That means we are fully licensed and fully trained to operate this vessel, and also all the life-saving equipment on board. Now folks, in the very unlikely event we encounter any problems on the river, I'd ask our passengers please to remain seated, remain calm, and await instruction from a member of the crew. Although if you see me running with a life jacket on, please do try and keep up. I'm just seeing who's listening, which might be me. Well folks, if I may, I do appreciate we have lots of friends on foreign shores. If I can have a show of hands those who understood the safety announcement. Oh, about half. Okay. Well, I was asked if there was going to be any form of guided commentary on board these boats. There isn't. Well, there's normally an electronic river guide, which I can put on. But as and when we're asked, as members of the crew, we're happy to point out some of the sites, but we do leave it up to you guys, up to our passengers. So again, if I can have a show of hands if anyone would like me to point out any of the sites as we make our way up and down the river. Brilliant. That's about the same people that understood the safety announcement. Okay then, folks. Listen, I only do speak English. I'll try and speak as clearly as I can. For anyone who would like to listen in to the electronic river guide, our bar at the back of the boat, they can get an electronic river guide box with some headphones. It's free to use, 7 different languages if anyone wants to listen into the electronic version. But we do like to think we're slightly better. Well, we'll start on the left-hand side here then, ladies and gents. We've got the HMS Belfast. Now, the Belfast was actually built in Belfast in Ireland, the same shipyard which built the Titanic. That's the Heartland and Wharf shipyard. Now, they actually started building in 1936, completed in 1938, and then she was commissioned to the Royal Navy. Now, within 4 months of having her, the Royal Navy managed to find a magnetic mine, and they blew a big hole in the side. She was laid up for 4 years, but she has seen a lot of active service. The last campaign she was ever involved in is the 1952 Korean campaign. She was NATO's flagship for that campaign, but she's a museum piece today. She's been on the Thames now since 1971 as a museum. Well, we'll stay on the left-hand side then. All these very nice buildings we see here on the left is a very small city within London City. Now, it's called London Bridge City. All these buildings belong to the Kuwaiti royal family. Now, they have a lot of their own services. They have their own police service, they have their own fire service, their own banks, their own pier, which we can see there, London Bridge City Pier. They also have their own hospital as well, London Bridge Hospital, just there on the left. But within London Bridge Hospital, they now have Europe's tallest building, and that's the Shard of Glass, just there to the left. Although the proper name for this building is it's actually called the Shard at London Bridge, but we all call it the Shard of Glass. Like I said, the tallest building in Europe now, just over 1,000 feet tall. Now there's 95 floors in there, and there's quite a lot going on in that building. There's a hotel, there's apartments, there's shops, there's observation decks. There's a couple of observation levels open to the public. Now the highest one of those on the 72nd floor, 800 feet up. That makes it the UK's highest observation platform. Now, it's not free, they'll charge you to go up there, and they've set the price at £29. But on a clear day like today, you can see about 50 miles in all directions. You can see Windsor Castle from up there, that's in about 45 miles away. Well folks, we'll go to the right-hand side. We've got something you're not going to see for much longer, they're building in front of it. And we can see a column just here on the right-hand side with a golden globe on top. Now this is one of Christopher Wren's designs, it's a monument to the Great Fire of London. And the golden globe on top is supposed to represent the candle which started the fire in Pudding Lane, 1666. Now you can go up there, it's another observation level. The column itself is 202 feet high, but it's also exactly 202 feet away from where the Great Fire started in Pudding Lane. Well, this is the very famous London Bridge, folks, London Bridge. Well, this is the 5th bridge to span this same site in the last 2,000 years. This one was opened in 1973, opened by our present Queen. The last one, they made it too heavy, it was sinking into the riverbed, so they took it down, but it's bought by an American guy called Bob McCullen. Now he shipped it across to America, and it now spans Lake Havasu in the Arizona desert as a tourist attraction. Now on the left-hand side here, we've got Southwark Cathedral, just in the gaps of the building there. That is one of the oldest places of worship in the City of London. Parts of Southwark Cathedral date back to around the 13th century. And we also have on the left-hand side here, we have the pirate ship. Now this pirate ship is a full working replica of Sir Francis Drake's Golden Hind. Now, the original Golden Hind went around the Earth once, and that's basically because Drake got lost. It was easier to go around and retrace his steps. This replica of the Golden Hind has been around 3 times already, and is due to go again at some point this year. But up until it leaves the port of London, it is open to the public, and I believe it's also currently free to go on board. Well folks, we're just approaching Cannon Street Railway Bridge. It's the oldest still working railway bridge to cross the Thames. Now as we look right, if we look left and right at the entrance to the bridge there, we can see these 2 towers. Now these are the old Victorian water towers. The Victorians built these embankments either side, although the actual centre span is slightly newer than that, but the oldest still working railway bridge. Now on the right hand side, I can see it's caught some of the guys' attention already. We have, it's a luxury spa, and you do normally see semi-naked people up there. Depending on how good it is, we may sometimes turn around and come back and have a look. Now the next one along, just here on the right hand side, is a bank. It's called a bank. It's a pub called the Banker. Sorry folks, a bit too warm for me today. We also have just here on the right hand side, well this is Walbrook Wharf. It's one of the few working wharfs left in the City of London. What they deal with here is household rubbish from central London. It's loaded into those grey containers there, the 25-ton containers. They use the gantry crane to put it onto that barge, and then when we have high water, they'll take that barge downstream to Essex, where the rubbish is all incinerated. Well, the bridge we're approaching, folks, this is Southwark Road Bridge. Now this is said to be the least used bridge to cross the Thames. Now the reason for that is when they built this in 1921, they built it in amongst a maze of roads. It's all one-way systems, dead ends. It's an absolute nightmare to find, and it makes it the least used bridge to cross the Thames. Now most of the traffic up there today, if we have a look up once we come from underneath it, you'll see it's mostly taxis, buses or HGV drivers. They're all professional drivers. Well folks, on the left hand side of the river, we've got another replica. That's the white building we see with the thatched roof. Now this is a replica of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. Now this is an exact replica, a very unique building on the Thames, because it is made entirely out of wood and thatch, and it's the first building to be made out of wood and thatch since the Great Fire of London in 1666. They actually made it illegal to make any buildings from these materials to prevent another fire, and that's still in force today. It took them 10 years to get permission to build this. It's finished in 1997. But as I said, it is an exact replica. That means there's no heating in this building, there's no lights, there's no microphones, there's no central roof. The roof you see there only goes around the outside. The rest of it totally open to the elements. Now as we have a look at the front, you can see there's actually a red flag flying today, and that means they've just started showing plays. Now they only hoist the red flag in nice weather, and like I said, because it's totally open to the elements. But once the actors start acting, they will continue even if it does start to rain. Well, the bridge we're going underneath now, this is the only footbridge to cross the Thames, sorry, the only standalone footbridge to cross the Thames. It's the Millennium Footbridge, or the proper name for the bridge is the Millennium Blade of Light, designed by Lord Norman Foster, better known though as the Wibbly Wobbly Bridge. Now when it was first opened in the millennium year, it wobbled so violently under the weight of people crossing it for the first time, it became unsafe, so had to evacuate the bridge. Now Lord Foster was actually interviewed on television, live television, about this bridge, and when he was asked why his bridge was unsafe, he said there was nothing wrong with this bridge. He said it's the way that people in London walked. On the left hand side there, folks, we got this was the old Bankside Power Station. Again, this was converted in the year 2000 to the Tate Modern Art Gallery. Now the Tate Modern Art Gallery is the largest modern art gallery anywhere in the world, also totally free to enter. Those of you who've seen modern art, you probably know why it's free to enter, but it is one of the many free things to do here in London. Well, instead of bridges we're approaching here, ladies and gents, this is the Blackfriars Bridges. Now it's called the Blackfriars because there used to be a monastery on the banks on the right hand side here, and all the monks used to wear black, so quite simply Blackfriars. This whole area here is Blackfriars. So we have the Blackfriars Bridges. This first one is the Blackfriars Railway Bridge, the latest one. Now they've been doing a lot of work here, they've been working on it since 2009, making the bridge wider. Now they're putting a station on this bridge, the only bridge across the Thames to do so, but the total cost for the modifications on this have been over £500 million so far. Now you will see very shortly, as we come out from the other side, you'll see there's some red columns left and right. This is all that remains of the old railway bridge. Now it's called the St Paul's. It was the first railway bridge ever to cross the Thames at any point, and it had the London, Dover and Chatham railway line going across the top. Now under the weight of modern trains it became unsafe, so simply took the top off and they left the red columns here. Now this is the Blackfriars Road Bridge, folks. Now as we go underneath, have a look at these columns, and you'll see carvings of birds at the top of these columns. Now this side of the bridge, they're saltwater birds, and as we come out from the other side, you'll actually see they're freshwater birds. And the reason for that is the Victorians believed the freshwater from the Cotswolds ahead of us and the saltwater from the North Sea behind us, they believe the waters mix just here. That's why we have the saltwater birds that side, freshwater birds this side. It's also the widest and the oldest road bridge to cross the Thames, opened in 1869 by Queen Victoria. But folks, I do sometimes get asked about all these chains we see on the other side of the bridge or down the side here. Well, the Thames is a very fast flowing river, a very dangerous river to fall into. This point in the river, on a good ebb tide, we've probably got maybe 3 knots of tide. For those who work in miles an hour, maybe 5 miles an hour. So a very fast flowing river, very dangerous. That's why we have all these chains down the banks. It's in case anyone falls on, it gives them something to hold on to until they can be pulled out by a boat. Now on the right hand side here, we've got this white building with the green slate roof, we've got the black central spire there. This is the old City London School for Boys. This is where Winston Churchill, our wartime Prime Minister, went to school before he went on to further education. Now if you have a look just below the roofline there, we can see 4 statues, some of our greatest scholars. Now from left to right, it's Isaac Newton, John Milton, Francis Bacon and Shakespeare. Well, if we go to the left-hand side then, we've got this red brick building here on the left. Now officially, this is called Stamford Wharf. Unofficially, this is known as the Oxo Building. Now it belonged to the Oxo Company in the 1950s. It was a cold meat storage facility at the time. But it's another very unique building here on the Thames. It's the only building advertising the product. Now there's a ban on advertising on the Thames because it's the Queen's Highway. Now they got around this by building that central tower there, and they made the windows spell out the word Oxo. Now they were actually taken to court over this, and they were asked why they were advertising illegally, and they said they weren't to where they were. They'd asked the builders to put in some round windows and some square windows. Now it's pure coincidence it spells out the word Oxo. So got thrown out of court. Free advertising now for just over 50 years. But today, top floors are restaurant, middle floors are apartments and shops on the lower floors. Well folks, on the right hand side of this wall we see here, this is the embankment wall. Now it's built by the Victorians, they built into the river to push the river away from these buildings. Now when they built the wall, they put these green lions heads here as well, and they put them here for 2 reasons. The first one is they look nice, and the second one is they use them as flood indicators. Now we have quite a large tidal range here, and the tide does get up as far as those lions. Now, the Victorian police are told if the level of the water rises up to the lions' mouths, that's about 7.5 metres of tide, they were to issue a flood warning and evacuate all these buildings here. Now, they had a rhyme to remember this. It's very easy, join in if you know it. It goes like this: if the lions' heads are drinking, then London is sinking. I can see some people are struggling with this one. There's an easy one, it goes like this: if the lions' heads are ducked, then London is flooded. Of course, not quite the same ring to it. But of course, we made up the second one. The first one was genuinely told to the Victorian police. Now, we'll stay on the right-hand side now. Just come up just ahead of us on the right-hand side. We've got a white boat, and you can see there's all canopies on the top deck there. Well, today it's a restaurant boat. It's called the Yacht at Temple Pier. But it used to be called the St Catherine's, and this is the former royal barge. This is the boat the royal family used when they had duties to attend on the Thames. That was a few years ago now. The boat's since been replaced by a boat called the Royal Norm. But as I said, it's a very exclusive restaurant boat today, the Yacht at Temple Pier. Well folks, on the left hand side here we've got this rather nasty looking concrete building with the electronic billboard. Well, this is the Royal National Theatre, although it's still simply referred to as the National Theatre. It did get royal status though in 1988, but it has been voted the ugliest building on the banks of the Thames, and that's by leading architects. In fact, Prince Charles doesn't like it. He actually said it's one of the ugliest things he's ever seen. There's a man who'd know a thing or two about ugly. Buildings, of course, folks, buildings. Now, what he actually said, if I was going to quote Prince Charles directly, he actually said it's a very clever way of building a nuclear power station in the middle of London without anyone complaining. Now, if anyone is here after dark, this looks totally different. They've got spotlights all over it, they light up in red, purple, blue. It looks totally different after dark, but it is one of our very best theatres here in the UK. Well, the bridge we're approaching now, this is Waterloo Road Bridge. Well, we've had the oldest, the widest, the narrowest, the least used. This is the longest road bridge to span the Thames. Now, Waterloo Road Bridge is just over a quarter of a mile long. It's also known as the Ladies' Bridge. Now, it was built by an almost entirely female workforce back in the Second World War because the guys are away fighting. Now, ladies being true to themselves, they did choose the most expensive material they could lay their hands on to build the bridge out of, and that is Portland stone. Now, Portland stone is expensive because it has the ability to self-clean whenever it gets wet. So whenever it rains, the sides of the bridge give themselves a little bit of a scrub. Well, we go back to the right-hand side then, folks. On the right-hand side, we've got this white building. We see the Union flag on the roof there. Well, this is the very famous Savoy Hotel. Now, Savoy is famous for being one of the most expensive hotels in London. The cheapest room currently in the Savoy stands about £400 a night. And the most expensive, directly below the Union flag there, that's the bridal suite. That's £2,200 per night. They do have their own jetty, that's it, just the right-hand side. If anyone does want to go there by boat, if you give them, I think it's 24 hours notice, they will actually meet you here at the jetty and take your bags across. Now, we also have the oldest monument in London, just here on the right-hand side, Cleopatra's Needle. Now, Cleopatra's Needle is 3,500 years old, was given to us by the Egyptian government to celebrate Nelson's victory over Napoleon. Now, as we look behind Cleopatra's Needle, the building just behind, have a look at the clock face, folks. Left and right of the clock face, you might be able to make out there are 4 pharaohs carved into the stonework up there. Now, they were actually put there to look down and guard Cleopatra's Needle. Well, folks, last set of bridges there, until we come to Westminster. These are the Hungerford Bridges, named after the cattle market. It used to stand where you see Charing Cross Railway Station today. Individually though, we have the Golden Jubilee Walkways, and it's good luck to wave up to these people. If they don't wave back, they're from London. And of course we have Charing Cross Railway Bridge. Now, this is the only point on the Thames where we go not only underneath the railway bridge, but also over the top of another railway line. We've got the Bakerloo Underground line directly below us, about 60 metres below us. So the only point in the Thames where we go over and under a railway line at exactly the same time. Now, a few things to point out here, folks. Of course, we do have the London Eye there on the left-hand side, a very recognisable sight now on the Thames. Well, the London Eye has been with us since the year 2000, and she has carried to date just over 50 million passengers. They're all happy. That's actually a bar over there on the right hand side, folks. I think they've had a bit too much. Well, the London Eye, well, it's now the 4th highest observation wheel in the world. If anyone's listening to the electronic guide, it'll say it's the highest in the world. It's not anymore. It's now the 4th highest, 450 feet high. Now, save you counting, there are 32 pods on the Eye. That's not a random number. That reflects the number of boroughs we have here in London. So 1 pod for every borough of London. Now, it takes half an hour to go around, travels about 1 mile an hour. And folks, if you have a look near the top, you'll see there's 1 orange pod. Now, I do sometimes get asked why there's 1 orange pod on there. In fact, is anyone going on London Eye today? A few people. Cool. Okay. Well, the orange pod, the reason it's there, one of the white ones fell off about 2 weeks ago, and that's the replacement. Of course, folks, I'm just kidding. It's absolutely fine. It's fine. And it's not as someone suggested to me a couple of weeks ago. It's not a pod for ginger people either. It is in fact, sorry folks, it is in fact the signature colour for EDF. That's the company which currently sponsor the London Eye. So you can breathe now, ladies, breathe. Well folks, of course just ahead of us there we do have the Houses of Parliament. although that's not actually the correct name for the building. It's actually the New Palace of Westminster. It's only loaned to the Houses of Parliament. Now, the most recognisable part of that building is, of course, the clock tower. Now, we all call the clock tower Big Ben, even those of us who live in London. It's even probably on your maps as Big Ben, but nobody can see Big Ben. And that's because that's the name of the 13.5-ton bell inside the tower. Now, Big Ben chimes the hour and the hour only. Unfortunately, we've missed it by a few minutes. Although there is another set of bells there, they're called the Chimes of Westminster. They comprise of a further 9 bells, and they precede Big Ben. They also chime the 1/4 past, 1/2 past and 1/4 to. But the name of the tower, today it's called Elizabeth Tower. It was renamed last year to celebrate our Queen's 60th year on the throne. Before that time, it was actually called simply the Clock Tower. That was its official name, although it's had lots of nicknames. Some people call it St Stephen's Clock and Tower. That was a Victorian media nickname. Other people call it the Great Clock of Westminster, again another nickname. But today, Elizabeth Tower. The tower just behind it, the one with the Union flag flying, that's Victoria Tower, named after Queen Victoria. Traditionally, the tower the Queen goes in whenever she attends Parliament. She goes through an entrance called Sovereign's Entrance. Now, very quickly, while we're waiting for these boats to sort themselves out, a bit of trivia for you. You notice I've called all the Union flags, not Union Jacks. Now, we've only seen one Union Jack today. So what makes a Union flag a Union Jack? Does anyone know? Okay, I'll tell you. The only one we've seen is on the front of the HMS Belfast. When you see a Union flag flying from a wooden jackstaff on an HMS vessel, that then turns it into a Union Jack. All other Union flags are exactly that, Union flags. So there we go. Well folks, our berth, I think, is now clear. We've got a little bit of dodgems going on here at the moment. Yeah, our berth is clear. Okay folks, we're going to go in now. We'll be alongside in the next minute or two. A quick word on safety first. I can see you're all seated, which is very good. If I could ask you please just to remain seated. It'll only take a couple of seconds of your time, but it's safer for you folks. We do sometimes come alongside here with a bit of a bump. We've got a very fast flowing current at this part of the Thames. So if I could ask you please folks just to remain seated for your own safety. Now if you are leaving us here, please do have a good look around. Make sure you take all your belongings with you. Don't ruin your day by leaving something behind. Well folks, this is Westminster Pier. We are going across to the London Eye. So any passengers for London Eye, stay on board. That's going to be our next stop. Now we are going to be leaving here at 3:15. So we're going to be alongside here till 3:15, and then we will go across to the London Eye. Well folks, I hope you enjoyed your cruise upstream. Once again, this is Westminster Pier. If I may folks, a very quick word about the commentary. Now, as I said, I'm not a guide or a commentator, I'm only a member of the crew. I hope you've done a good job. We have a very old tradition here on the Thames, and that is, if you've understood or even liked the few words I've said, if you'd like to show some gratitude, you can do so in a very traditional manner. Now the captain's champagne bucket will be at the gate as you leave. If you'd like to put in a bit of loose change as you leave, of course it will be gratefully received. But if you don't have any loose change, folks, that's absolutely fine, because we now take watches, rings, cheques, Visa, single ladies' telephone numbers. The captain has asked for single men's telephone numbers. Of course, folks, all joking aside, main thing is we hope you've enjoyed your cruise upstream. If you are leaving us here, enjoy the rest of the day in London. Whatever you do, do it with safety. Ladies and gents, thanks for your attention. No, please, don't stop. Thank you.